What's going on today, guys? It's GLG James back at it with another video. Today we got a deck list for the Red Blue Marco deck. It's been a deck that I've kind of been working on ever since I heard about the RP law ban. It's been my project that I've been seriously taking, labbing with it very hard, trying to make it my new deck because I feel like it is very valuable. I do really like all the cards, and I do love all the Wipe Your Pirate alts and everything like that. But as a whole, I do think it's a very powerful deck that does have some merit going into the 08 and 8.5 format. So getting right into it here, let's take a look at the deck list. So first, starting out, we have the leader, obviously, and with its ability, it's Dawn ×1. It's an activate main ability. Once per turn, you get a draw card, and then you get to place one card on the top or bottom of your deck. And on top of that, you get to give a character minus 2k power during this turn, right? So during your turn. It's really good. I mean, you get a cycle similar to Sakazuki, right? What made that deck so powerful, but also to that minus 2k really comes up. It lets your little smaller bodies get a chance to swing still, and it just makes everything be a little bit harder for them to math out at the end, right? So going into it, we start off with the Ezo Searcher, right? I saw some decks that don't run it, but I think it's just such a powerful card, especially for what we're trying to do with our strategy here. Essentially lets you look top 5 cards, grabs your Wipe Your Pirate card, very standard. Just opening up with that, and then also getting a cycle on top of that, it's so powerful. You're going through essentially 6 cards of your deck, right, in order to grab something that's going to be useful. And you'll notice a lot of this whole strategy revolves around cycling, obviously, right? But what's so important with this is knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, those cards that you're drawing, right? If that card is not going to get you immediate value or value in the next maybe 1 or 2 turns or so, you gotta bottom deck it. You can't let those dead cards be in your hand. You'll notice there is a lot of non-counter cards, but we're able to cycle, so you got to be able to cycle those cards out in order to just gain the value and be able to have the counters in hand to keep playing in order to survive, right? So moving on, Otama, standard 2k counter, but also too, it just pairs so well with the deck because it is a 1 cost that gives minus 2k power. So that paired with leader ability, you're bringing a card down by 4k, right? There's so much value on that, seriously. Next we go into the Namul. This is kind of a spice, right? Nobody else really runs it. I haven't seen any lists with it yet, but because instead people opt to play the Doflamingo blocker, right? That one lets you look at the top 5 cards and then rearrange your stack. Namul is a little bit different. What it does is it lets you draw 2 cards, and then you get to place 2 cards from your hand right onto the stack. So you can choose those 2 cards. You could use a combination of that card and another card in your hand. But it's so big. It's such a great ability, right? I personally feel like you don't need to go 5 cards deep. 2 cards is fine, right? Because what you're really trying to do for that ability specifically is to set up your ace on the following turn, your 5 cost ace, right? So whether you're holding on to any of your 4 cost characters, you're able to set that in order for your next turn in order for that ace to go through, right? Especially going first, right? The deck has such a hard time going first because you need that additional Dawn to set up some of your abilities and set up some of your plays. That Namul really helps set those plays up, because instead now you set up your stack of the card you're going to draw and then the card that you could play off of Ace's ability, so you can still get the full value on that, right? And then also to being able to pair that with the Sanji that we'll go over later too as well, if you really need to. After that we have the Jozu. It's a standard 2k. It also, with Dawn ×1, if your life I believe is 2 or less, the character gains rush, right? It can come up. Personally, I just use it as a 2k counter. But sometimes you're really trying to seal out game, you really desperately need that rush card. There it is. So after that, we go right into the King Du, another 2k counter. Like I said, this was just standard. Another one I just used mainly as a 2k counter, but if it does come up, you can reveal 2 Wipe Your Pirate cards in your hand. It gains 2k power, so it becomes essentially a 4/6. After that, we go into Pudding. Pudding is just, it's Pudding. It's a great card. That card's going to win you some games. In the black-yellow matchup, in the Enel matchup, where they're sitting behind 9 cards, 10 cards, 7 cards, however many it is, right? Any more than 5. You're going to just rip them, make them pay for it, right? And it's such a good card that, if your deck has access to it, you kind of have to run it. You know what I mean? Because if there's a card out there that could potentially win you a matchup, why not run it, right? Especially it does fit well in the strategy, because worst comes to worst, we bottom deck it when we don't need it. So after that, we go into Marco, 4-drop blocker Marco. to be specific. So this one is a great card in the black matchup, right? It's a great card in the format as a whole, I'd say right now. Because on KO, if you have 2 life or less, right, which being a 4 life leader, you tend to get there kind of quick. You can trash a wipe your pirate card from your hand in order to bring it back, right? So it can recur itself. So when it gets KO'd by a cost minus ability, or a Lucci or something like that, after it's been cost minus, you can bring it back. And the best part about it is when it comes back, it resets its stat line. So it comes back as a 4 life or a 4 cost character. It comes back as a 5,000 power character. Whatever it may be that they did to it in order for it to clear it, it goes away, right? And it's not once per turn. The best part about it, you can just keep spamming that ability out over and over. For all you newer players, this card used to be banned, or not banned. It used to be down to 1. You could run 1 copy of it. So the fact that it's off the ban, it was played. It was a really good card. One of the best blockers. I still think it is one of the best blockers in the game right now. It just kind of missed, just wasn't as popular in the previous formats, right? Because there wasn't really a deck that could use it as well. After that, we have the Speed Jill, which is a 4/6 vanilla, and that kind of pairs off with the card that's right after it too as well. The 5/6 ace that came out in 08. Right, that card on play lets you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a 4 cost or less, you get to play it out for free. Right, so essentially you set up your stack, right, either with the Enel, or you set your stack up with your leader ability to set up either the Speed Jill or the Marco. In the perfect situation, those 2 are your best options, so that you're playing out a 5/4, or 5 cost character and a 4 cost character, right, which is such a powerful play to do on 5 or 6 Dawn. Seriously, like you're really gonna have to extend the next turn in order to try and clear it, right? So after that, we have the Marco. Essentially, also paired well with the leader ability, right? On your 6 Dawn turn, you do 1 on the leader, reduce a character by 3k, and then bam, you're dropping down, their 5,000 power character, minus 2k equals 3,000. Drop the 5 cost Marco, bam, that thing's gone, right? And even in situations where, you have they have the Rebecca out, that thing's just on play, bam, pops out the Rebecca, so there's just so much value in it. Right. Moving on to the Boa Hancock. Great card. Seriously. I was kind of in between this card and Jozu a little bit. If you don't know what Jozu was, came out this most recent set, 08. It's a 6/7. Lets you bounce one of your characters back, and then essentially you get to bounce a 6 cost or less to your opponent's hand. Right. That card was good. It did have its viability, and I saw the value in it. However, there are just times where when I'm playing, when I'm going against the black matchup, or just a deck that has like really good KO abilities, they clear your little bodies, and you're just left there with no body to bounce back, and it's like, you really want to clear their body, but you can't, right? So in that case, Boa is better, I'd say, as well as just going Boa into something else, the following turn, going Boa into the Silver Rayleigh specifically. That following turn is so valuable, because essentially if it's a 6k body or whatever body it is, you can reduce it with the Rayleigh, kind of just gain tempo because you're able to reduce their characters that can't really swing. We'll talk a little bit more about Rayleigh though in a second. After that though, we have the Ace, 7 cost Ace. This card wreaks havoc. It's such a good card. It's on play, you're able to reduce 2 characters by 3,000, and then this character also gains rush because you are a wipe your pirate leader. I remember, RP Law lists, they were running this card because it was so valuable, being able to reduce 2 characters by 3k. And they didn't even get the full value out of it. They didn't get the rush, but it's just that good of a card where they would still play even at half strength essentially. But you get it at full strength, so why not run it, right? Just being able to pair that also with lead ability, right? Lead ability minus 2k, and then you get Ace minus 3k. You can reduce a character by 5,000 power, and then you're swinging over it with a 6k body, with your leader, or a 7k body with Ace. So there's just so much value behind that. I think it'd be absurd not to run it. Next after that, we have the Rayleigh, which plays a little bit similar to that Ace. Doesn't have rush, but it reduces a character by 3,000 and reduces a character by 2,000. But after that, it also KOs a character that is 3,000 power or less, right? Kind of a little tech that we have with this is after they do, after Lucci does its, it's Gecko, Rebecca, whatever play, right? What you can do is you reduce the Gecko by 3, you reduce the Lucci by 2, and then you pop the Rebecca, right? Huge value, right? So then when you swing into the Lucci, it's now 4,000 power, right? And then that power minus of this card, the best part about this card is the power minus lasts until the end of your opponent's turn, right? So they're sticking with their little, their little, 7k gecko, right? They're dealing with their 6k, Yamato. They're dealing with their 5k Katakuri, right? So they're just getting absolutely destroyed by that, seriously. And especially into the yellow matchup, they're playing out their big body after big body after big body, right? So, but you're making that big body not so big anymore. That Yamato is not going to be wreaking as much havoc as I think it's going to in that following turn when it can finally swing. Right? So, it's just such a valuable card. And then that paired with the Sanji that we're going to see following soon. But after that, we do run the 8-drop Dragon, right? Maybe you're thinking like, hey, that probably should be, the 9-drop Newgate. And, it's not a bad idea. But for the way I'm playing this deck, I'm playing more of an aggro build, being able to kind of really push the tempo on it. So for me personally, I think, the value I get off of the Dragon is just more than the Newgate, right? Because with the Sanji, right, the 9-drop Sanji, all of these cards are free. And if you don't know what the Sanji does, on play, it lets you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a 9 cost or less, you get to play it for free, right? So the Dragon, the Rayleigh, the Ace, the Boa, even the Marco, all of those cards, you get to play them out for free, essentially, right? And I really like, I think your best plays are either going to be the Rayleigh or the Dragon, just depending upon your situation. But the Dragon is so powerful, I'd say, as an option, because after you boost one, or attach one Dawn to Marco, right, you use lead ability to stack the Dragon, then you play the Sanji, right, then it plays out the Dragon for free. The Dragon lets you attach 2 Dawn to Marco for free, right? So essentially you're swinging 8-9 into your leader, right, which is so valuable. There's some huge numbers and some great numbers to be able to swing against, because you're going to get plenty of cards out of hand, whether you're swinging at a character or you're swinging at something else. On top of that too, like I said, you put Dawn on your leader, right, so you get to also do the minus. So even if you're playing out Dragon on your 8 Dawn turn, you still get to attach the Dawn, right, onto your leader, getting it up to 7k first of all, and then you get to use leader ability to reduce the character by 2k. There's so much value on that, right? So you're swinging for 7, you're swinging for 9, right? You're doing that on your 8 Dawn turn on curve. So I think it's so good, and I like it so much more than the Newgate. So going into the events, the first one we have is the Thank You for Loving Me event. So that one is kind of a unique card, I'd say. So this card lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and lets you add a Wipe Your Pirate card. And then after that, you get to stack the rest of the cards, the remaining 2 or 3 if you whiff, in any way you want. So you can either put them on the bottom or you can stack them on the top, right? So this card's super valuable when you're going first, right? So you're able to drop this, turn 2 to set up your ace if you didn't see the Namul, or if you're going into your 9 Dawn turn, you could drop this on 7 in order to, like I said, set up your stack for that Sanji. Right, because on your 9 Dawn, you're not able to set your stack up yourself with lead ability. You have to kind of fabricate it using, either the event or the Namul. It feels a little bit clunky, but it's what you got to do. Because the Sanji into whatever it is just such a powerful turn, 9-drop turn to be able to do. And then moving forward with that, we do run the Seaquake. We only run it at 1. I feel like these situations where it comes up is very niche. Right, it's great when you're playing against Bonnie, when you're playing against Perona, whether they play out either the Momonosuke or they play out the Bonnie Searcher, or the Baby 5 Searcher, right? And they're expecting, oh yeah, I could just rest it next turn, save me a Dawn, right? And then you kind of just have this as an answer of, almost as your nope button, right? So they drop that, and you go nope, Seaquake. You don't get that free search, right? Yeah, you don't get that free search on your following Dawn or your following turn. Only one has 1, like I said, very niche. There are times where you could drop Ace, and then you could drop the Seaquake to pop something, or you can go lead ability and Seaquake to pop something. But, like I said, the situations are very specific for it. So I only have it at 1 for now. Maybe that might change in the future. I don't know. But next we have the Phoenix brand. This is another card that I don't see anybody running. It is very specific. There is no trigger on it. But I think it's very, very valuable in the black-yellow matchup. If you don't know what this card does, for 4 Dawn, right? Lets you bottom deck a 6-cost character by revealing 2 wipe your pirate cards in your hand. So, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have the wipe your pirate cards in your hand. You run so many, right? And if not, you're cycling your deck super duper heavy in order to get those wipe your pirate cards in your hand, because those are some of your best cards. So, you reveal 2 of those cards, and you're able to bottom deck a 6-cost. So that Sabo, it prevents them from doing their Sabo cycle. You can stop, the 5-cost ace, or not, 5-cost ace even. You can do the 5-cost rocket Luffy, whatever it may be that's causing you issues in that black-yellow matchup, you can just bottom deck it, right? I know what you're thinking, well, GLG James, why not the Gravity Blade? For me personally, I feel like the Gravity Blade, it's a fantastic card, don't get me wrong, but for this deck specifically, it's just too expensive, right? There's too much of other things you're trying to accomplish on a turn that you can't really afford to drop 7 Dawn, because that's going to be your entire turn. Yeah, sure, you're moving 2 bodies versus 1, but this deck, doesn't spam out characters as well as Dofi does, right? Yeah, you can do the Sanji into something, you can do the ace into something, but you'll notice as you play it too, sometimes you're hard casting, you're hard casting that boa, you're hard casting that ace, right? So you just don't have the Dawn in order to do everything you want to. Yeah, I just feel like the Phoenix brand just is better because it is less of a Dawn commitment. You're able to kind of mitigate your Dawn in other directions, right? And then after that, we do have the Gum Gum Red Rock, right? That one it's a great card. Those big bodies that you're not able to touch with Rayleigh, the ones you're not able to swing over with, a reduced body, you're not able to reduce enough or whatever it may be, you can just bottom deck it. Too high of a power, too high of a cost, whatever it is, bam, just bottom deck it. Keep it in range. So, yeah, that's the deck list that we kind of have for you guys. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. But next, we're going to go into some gameplay. So going to the gameplay, we do have Enel first. I do feel like the Enel matchup isn't too bad for us. We are able to put out way more big bodies than they are. The turns that they're dropping their 9-cost Yamato, their 8-cost Cat, or their 10-drop Ace. Usually we're matching it with a 9-drop Sanji into another big body to match it. So, usually we can out-tempo them, and by the time, they start swinging, so do we. Right, and then we're getting these tall bodies that they can't counter out of, and that they're, even if they do get the 0-cost event, or if they get the Capone trigger, it doesn't matter, because we have a wide board and tall board at that. So they like to go endgame, but so do we. So you'll kind of see a little bit of that here too moving forward. So looking at it, I do have to go first, which, like I said, isn't great for me, but we're gonna make do with what we got. So opening hand here, it does look good, and we do decide to keep it because we do see the pudding, right? And we do see the searcher event, right? So like I told you, with that searcher event, we're looking to set up the Sanji not Sanji, we're looking to, actually we could, looking either to set up the Sanji, or we're looking to set up the 5-cost ace. So moving on with So Great 2 is turn 1. If we really want to, we can use lead ability to cycle, and looks like we do opt to do that, finding the 5-drop Marco. And trying to decide whether or not we gotta do what we're gonna do. So we do choose to bottom deck, and we decide to bottom deck that Marco, right? The reason why we did that is because since we're not on 6 Dawn, we can't go lead ability to reduce and then pop with that Marco. Like I said, that could maybe come up later down the line, but if it's not getting us immediate value, we're not gonna play it out, like I said. So yeah, so we're going in. They decided to run the Shura. They did grab the Enel, right? So standard plays. So what do we decide to do? We decide to go leader ability to cycle. We find that 5-cost ace, which is awesome. So then what we do, we decide to put down the speed Jill on top, right? To do that, to set ourselves up for the following turn where we're able to do ace into speed Jill, right? So we're going to set up our stack. We're going to use the thank you for Lord. Yeah, we're going to swing 7 first. He's deciding who's going to counter. And then after that, we're going to run the event here. So if you see here, we're going to see that speed Joe that we placed on top. We're going to grab a card with the searcher event, right? Which we're going to grab a 2K. And then we're going to set it up so that we place the speed Jill as a second card, so that that's not the card that we draw into. So we end our turn. They play out another Shura, just digging, right? And I'm okay with it because they're building up their hand, but I have a pudding in mind, so I'm just waiting, right? So this 5k swing, you know, you'll notice in a lot of these games, I do counter out early, right? Because I want to be able to survive until the end game. And being a 4-cost leader, or a 4-life leader, these days it's tough. You know, it's a tough life we live. But we gotta keep it strong. We gotta protect our life, right? Because it is such a huge asset. So we decide to counter out. We use a 2k, which kind of sucks, but we need all the other cards. We gotta keep that pudding. We gotta keep that 4-cost blocker just in case. So we swing 5. We imagine he takes it, and at this point, I'm thinking to myself, like, he has 9 cards in his hand, right? I probably should just pudding, right? Yes, I'm set up for the ace, and that was definitely my total intention. But then he started doing the sure shenanigans, right? Adding all these cards in his hand, and then I just swung, he took it, so I'm like, okay, I have to, right? It's way too juicy of a play not to, right? So maybe if he countered or, you know, lost some sort of cards in hand, didn't triple or didn't double sure last turn, right, then, you know, would be less inclined to, but I have to, right? 9 cards, I have to drop out the pudding. So yeah, I'm still debating it because I'm like, dang, I really messed my stack here, but it doesn't matter. You know, shuffle their hand, 5 cards, 5 to 5, from 9 cards to 5, right? And like I said, this card wins you games. So since I know my cycle, I decide, you know, like, let me just get a counter in hand, right? So I grab that. Just to get that, we were chatting a little bit. So then he drops the Gadatsu, pops my pudding. I knew he added the Gadatsu, so, but, you know, I wasn't really upset about it, right? You lost, essentially. Actually, I didn't, because he had to shuffle his hand. So he happened to get the Gadatsu back again. So swing 6k at my life. Like I said, you gotta protect the life, right? It's so important. So I just drop another 2k. And our board's clear, right? We're not looking too great, but here, let's see what we decided to do here. So we're using lead ability. Looks at a stack, putting a card on the top of our deck. It looks like we're about to do the ace play, which I do still like, even looking back on this, instead of dropping the Bonnie, or not the Bonnie, the Boa Hancock. Because getting a wide board is how you beat Enel, right? So we swing 7 at face, and then we drop, he Amaru's us, which honestly I'm not mad about it. Amaru is such a balanced card in my opinion, because you're losing essentially what, you lose 2 cards for the ability, because you have to discard it, and then you also don't get the card that you added off of life. So you do get a heal, but man, you know what, it's a 3-for-1. I'm totally okay with that every single time. So he does lose his hand size on top of being puddinged, right? He got pudding too as well, so totally okay with it. So I decided to go up to ace. Ace drops the speed gel. Another Gadatsu would kind of suck here, but at this point, what, he's at his 7-down turn, 8-down turn. So there's a better place to be made. So he drops the Sanji. I'm kind of surprised he's running the Sanji. That's not really a card that people would typically be running now. So now he's just attaching Dawn to the Shuros, just getting some additional value with swings. Just because I do have such a small hand size, and he's probably noticed I've been counting out a lot, so he's imagining I probably them all out. But I've got one more, so I'm gonna use it. Then he swings 6. I have to take, no counters in hand, and then I noticed I got a Seaquake, right? So I'm thinking to myself, you know, I could, right, use this to reduce the Gadatsu and to reduce the Gadatsu essentially, and so they can't swing at my face. However, right, we could also use lead ability, right? If you notice, because we are on 9 Dawn, right, we can use lead ability to reduce, or not lead ability, we can use that Silver Rayleigh in our hand to reduce, right, a character by 3k and a character by 2k, and then we can just pop it with that Seaquake, right? Like I said, the Seaquake comes up in very niche situations, but this was one of them, right? So we decide not to activate it. We do get the Sanji, which is fire, right? Huge value, right? So we see that in the Mool, and we're at 9 Dawn. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna do exactly what I said. We're gonna drop that Rayleigh, just thinking about it one more time to make sure that's the right thing to do. We're gonna reduce the Gadatsu by 3, and then gonna reduce the Sanji by 2, and then we're gonna pop the Sanji, right? So you can't get the value out of the blocker. Then we're just gonna swing in the face. We're gonna go 6. He gets the Satori, right? Then we're gonna go, I think we decide, because right now, right, we're in a sticky situation in the sense of, do we swing in the face, let him get the heal, and then we swing, what, another 5 that he's gonna for sure be able to counter out of? there is value out of that because, you know, he is essentially going to lose a card in hand, right? He already has to cycle some sort of card. So instead we decide to go 5 first, see if he takes it. If he takes this, then we know, you know, he's probably bricked up. And if he doesn't take it, then hey, that's fine with us. So he's taking some time. He only has 2 cards in his hand too, so we know they run a lot of bricks. So he does end up conceding here. But as you can see though, as a whole, we had this in the bag, right? That's why I kind of kept this one in here, because, you know, we swing 5, right? He has to counter out that 2k, right? And then we decide we would pivot, probably just swinging over the Shura, and then we'd activate that C quick to pop. Following turn, he gets the Gadatsu. The Gadatsu is not going to do anything for him, right? None of these cards are going to do anything for him. The I Am God isn't going to do anything for him because he doesn't have that Enel in this trash anyway. So he's just bricked up, and that's the whole reason why he conceded. And, you know, MVP of that matchup is that pudding, right? That's the whole reason why we run that card, because it wins you games. All right, next we have a black-yellow matchup. So this one, they decided to go second. You know, like I said, going first is tough. So we get our hand. I believe we just kept it, or we mulligan, whatever it is. But I'm seeing we have the 5 cost ace, and we have the 1 cost thank you for loving me event. Like I said, we're trying to set ourselves up for a 5-4 drop, right? So we opt to go leader ability to cycle, just go a little bit deeper, and we find the pudding, which is such a great card, right? We know we love that card. So we decided to put the Rayleigh on top. Just because it's a non-counter, so worst comes to worst, right? We're able to counter with something if it gets crazy. But imagine what turn 1 for him, he's not going to do anything. He can't even swing. So it decides to flampe, really just unstarving himself, which is exactly what we want him to do, right? Because we can pudding them, right? So we draw to that Rayleigh placed, just looking at it, deciding which one to go first, right? I like to go lead ability, right? If there's something I know for a fact I can bottom deck, right, in my hand currently, I like to go lead ability, bottom deck said card, and then go thank you for loving me event, right? Or if I have, you know, if I had the 4 cost, I would put it there as well, to put out the ace. But in this situation, you know, I would probably go, let's see what I decided to do. I imagine go lead ability first. Yeah, lead ability first. Grab it, find the Marco, which is fantastic. We love that. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna place on top, and we're gonna place that Marco right back where we found it. Right, reduce that. It's not really do much, and then we're gonna swing 7 at face, right? Because we know he's gonna take it, and the next turn we know we can set ourselves up for the pudding. But for this one, we see that I decided to grab the event, the Phoenix brand, like I said, made for this matchup, like I said, and then we set ourselves up for the 5-drop ace play on the following turn. We obviously look at it, you know, we decide, see what they're going to do with the cards that they have. They do have so many cards in hand, so, you know, we're setting ourselves up for that if we need to. But worst comes to worst, or, you know, best comes to best, we're probably going to drop that pudding just because they're sitting behind so many cards. So, swings 5 at us. We have to counter out early just because we need to save our life, right, being a 4-cost leader. We end up taking it because we don't have counters now. Look at it. So we want to be able to save 1 for the ace play in case we go that route, or we want to save 1 for the we want to save the other counter for that pudding play. So we just draw the E zone, we instantly trash it because we don't need it, because we know we're coming up and we're kind of losing. We don't have the Dawn in order to do it, right? This turn we probably could have actually, but whatever. So we go 5, should go 6. I think we're deciding whether or not, yeah, so right here we're thinking about getting a little greedy. We're like, okay, I could swing into them for 6, right? They could take, or they could just counter out. So we're trying to decide what's the best option. I believe we just played safe when we played pudding right away. Yeah. We just opted pudding, right? There's too many cards in the hand. That's 7 cards in our hand. There's just so much value off that. And then we just continue the semi-starve strat where we just swung over the flampe. We cycled that Marco because we knew it was there onto our hand, and then place the Rayleigh on top just because it's a non-counter. So now we're sitting on still not that many counters, but we're in okay position. Right, still have 3 life. We have the Sanji Rayleigh basically set up in our hand. And then if anything gets crazy with the Sabos, we have the Phoenix brand in order to bottom deck it, right, to prevent that cycling. And we hit him with the pudding, which is huge. So they play the Garp. Garp reveals the 5-cost Sabo. There it is, right? And he has 5 Dawn, but to my surprise, and maybe to yours too, I believe he opts against it. So we counter out with the 4 cost Marco, just because we no longer have that setup for it. We're going into Later Dawn. So this is, you know, these Later Dawn cards, we want to drop the Rayleigh, we want to drop the Sanji, we don't want to drop these smaller characters. So we probably could have dropped we probably could have countered out with the Ace, but essentially, since we're both not going to use them, it's no big deal. So he does play out the 5 cost Rush Ace, which sucks. So we do have to take that life, unfortunately. But, you know, we're still good. We're in business. So we're on our 7 Dawn turn, which, like I said, going first sucks, because being on 8 right now would be huge, because then we could reduce the Ace, and we could do all kinds of other shenanigans. So instead, we have to kind of pivot a little bit. Now I remember right here I was kind of regretting countering out of that one, but we had to, right? Looking back at the tapes, we had to counter out, because taking 2 life that turn would have been brutal. So we're hoping to luck out and search out a 4 cost off of the Ezo here, and we see one, but that's not the one I want, you know. So I'm trying to decide, maybe I can power it down enough in order to get the Marco off. I can't. So we're just trying to decide it. And I'm thinking, oh, Ace would have been great if I didn't use that 1 Dawn to rest that Ezo, right? Or to play out that Ezo. So right now I'm just deciding. I probably end up deciding on the 2K. Yep, I'm grabbing the 2K just because I need more counters in hand. So since we're in this position, we have to kind of have to get a little creative. So we attach a Dawn to leader. We find the Nimul, which is great. So then in turn we place the Nimble back on top, we reduce the Ace, just swing 5 at it, get it, or 6 at 5, just to get a card out of hand, because we know, I imagine he's going to counter out of this one, which he doesn't, which was a huge shocker, I remember, because I was like, dang, he doesn't have a 2K in his hand. That's ridiculous. I would for sure have kept that up. So luckily he didn't have the 2K, and then we play out the Ace. Ace plays out the Nimble. Nimble lets us set up a stack. Right, we're looking at it, and I believe we place, is it 2 Rayleighs? I think we're going into our 9 Dawn turn, so we go Rayleigh, Sanji, right? So Sanji's going to get drawn, and we can just play out the Sanji, play out the Rayleigh on 9, which is huge. So we don't even have to use that Dawn in order to set our stack up, because we set it up ourselves. So they're on 8. Their trash isn't loaded, so they definitely are dropping Gecko. They have 2 life, so they're in a real tough spot. And on that following turn, I'm going to drop a 9 cost and an 8 cost. So, yeah. And then he whiffs off the Searcher event, which sucks. But, hey, you know what? If it can happen to me, it can happen to them. So, they whiff. They decide to play out that Sabo, right? Which is totally fine by me. And then they do their little cycle. They keep everything up. They keep everything, you know, protected, which kind of sucks. Because I was going to go Sabo or Sanji into Rayleigh, which was going to potentially pop a character that they played out. But obviously we can't do that, and we block with the Nimul, because, you know, might as well get value off the little chump blocker. And then we're playing that out. So we do end up playing it out. Okay, I thought maybe we would have gone the Phoenix brand route. But essentially, probably a better bet, because we're going to reduce that Sabo by 3k until the end of the next turn. So 1, they're not swinging with it, and 2, maybe they'll just block out with it, right? And they're still sitting at 2 life. So we reduce those 2, and then we end up, we can't pop anything, unfortunately. So then we go 5k out lead, see what they do. I imagine they'll just take it, because they're going into their, or now I'm debating whether or not I want to even swing. And I end up not, because, you know, I think they're going into their 10 Dawn turn. If I, hypothetically, I have 2 swings, I'll take them both, essentially, right? And then they're able to Gecko, right? I don't think his trash is set up for it. He might have set it up. He might have set it up with that Sabo. I saw one was a Ice Age, but either way, right? He can set himself up, right? So essentially, this is just the best bet. We're just not to swing there. Just continuously get tall. We know that we have another Rayleigh in hand too as well. So as long as he doesn't drop another Sabo and doesn't do a Sabo cycle, right, that we think he was going to do, we can pop that the following turn with that Rayleigh. Or we use the Phoenix brand. So we're pretty much set up. So he's going into 10. He's got to get real creative to take that life. So you have to attach a Dawn and swing 6 at face, which is fine. We have a 2k. We 2k out. He has 9 Dawn up. Plays out the Perona. Odd choice, but hey, you know what? I have seen some people play this card. So it is going to rip a card out of my hand. I do decide on the red rock, I believe. Yep. Any second now. But I remember, I ended up choosing the red rock, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if he drops a gecko? But at this point, I'm so far ahead that them doing a gecko wouldn't really hurt me all that bad. So he plays out the little Luffy, or the big Luffy, in order that takes its own life. I'm thinking to myself, I'm at a pretty solid spot here. So I think, oh yeah, so the Phoenix brand came up, sure enough, guys. So we put out the Phoenix brand, right? Do we? Yep, we put out the Phoenix brand, revealing 2 Wiper Pirate cards to bottom deck that Sabo, right? So it prevents it from being able to do that Sabo stinking cycle that we don't like at all. So we reveal the 2 Marcos, and then we bottom deck the Sabo, right? Completely getting rid of it. And look at that. What else are we able to do this turn? We're able to drop a boa, right? So we're gonna not tell that yet. We're gonna swing 5. He has 3 cards in hand. No biggie. We got some big old swings coming up, right? We can drop the boa, but I remember we decided not to. We drop the ace, swing 6. Right. After he took this one, we're like, wait a second. I have an 8k swing and a 9k swing, and I still have 6 Dawn. Like, why extend this any longer than it needs to? Let me just freaking go yard. Right, so I got the search event, got the big or the little ace. It doesn't matter, you know. Like I said, we're gonna go yard. So we decide to go 11, 12. So we go 11, and then we go 12. And we never put him in a position where he could have used the lead ability, where he could have used the little kids. Look, he's holding on to that little Sabo. He has a gecko. He has a little ace. You know, he has the works in his hand. But it didn't matter because we put him in such a position where he couldn't really drop anything. He couldn't even really boost his leader ability or his leader at all. So, like I said, it's great. It's fantastic. This deck is fantastic. The Phoenix brand came up. See, so that's why I run it. And that's my Marco deck list. That's going to be the deck that I'm playing all of OP08 and 8.5, and then maybe even going into 9. So I've been really enjoying it so far, and only better things to come. And as always, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. GLG out.